Yeah, I think then I'm dealing with the classes that I've got here. I'm dealing with a range of students who are perhaps, I would say they're often mischaracterized as not interested in, in the world around them. I think they are. I think their experience of that world is sometimes, different to your stereotype of the academically able student. But I think in a nutshell it would be, and it's really hard, I don't have an easy answer to that, but I think it's perhaps somehow a more gentle approach to the conceptual work that you lead into it in ways that is in their world of experience, in what you might read and what you might talk about, and there's plenty of room for expressing your ideas. And often with that kind of class, I think they need to be explicitly taught how to interact with, the new syllabus has, or the new literacy progressions have got interacting in there, which is interesting. So I think it involves explicitly teaching people how to share their opinions and listen to others as a whole class, but as a pair as well. I would try to explicitly teach my pairs what to do in a pair work activity that involves actually listening to and working with your partner and trying to build knowledge. I think secondly, that the activities that lead to that kind of thinking, I think we, at a higher level class, you'd probably be able to put a thematic or a conceptual question up on the board and say, discuss this with your partner and then, report back. I think that you need to be much more structured in the steps of thinking, that sort of scaffolding of thinking an argument, perhaps with a mixed ability class and lower level class. So I think their ideas and their interests are there. I think a lot of the material they get doesn't spark that interest. So I think it's about the choice of material. I think it's the way you start discussions off that it links to things that they care about, and have got an opinion about. And then it's about that sort of structuring of pair and group work, so that they've got, scaffolded steps where they can develop aspects like using evidence, using arguments and counter arguments, and the sort of tactics that we have there. They've got to be explicitly taught, and then those skills in interacting. I guess the difference between teaching a 9-1 class if it's streamed, and in this school we usually have a 1 class that's streamed, and then 3, 4, 5 classes beyond that which are mixed ability. It's the usual structure, and if necessary a support class, but not always. So if you're going to do the same topic, I would assume that with my 9-1 class, I don't have to support or scaffold their conceptual engagement, and this is not necessarily true, so it's kind of problematic because the 9-1 class is also a mixed ability to some level. But for better or worse, I am assuming that there's an ability to discuss, an ability to work in a pair, an ability to listen, an ability to understand what's going on conceptually in the world around you, and that's a starting point for engagement in that class. But that in a mixed ability class, in my 9-2, 3, 4, 5, I would just need to be more careful, more structured in my approach to making sure I build the capacity in the students to do those things. Because I think it's there in almost every student, but perhaps it hasn't been brought out through their education or their family life. Often the riposte you'll hear is something isn't fair, which I think for many students is simply I'm not getting what I want or how I think this situation should be. So particularly as a head teacher, it's often my job to discuss with the student to help them to see the wider picture around what was happening, so they might come to a place where they can accept the teacher's decision as being different to what they wanted or what they thought should happen. But that doesn't necessarily mean the teacher was being unfair to them. So that's a very common kind of discussion. That's one angle to it. I think the fairness that's important to me, and it's interesting that you said to be seen to be fair. So a lot of it is about that visible sense that I am treating situations that arise from different students equitably. I think it does not necessarily mean the same, and some students need to be educated about the difference between that, and that's okay. I know the students are fine with that. But why, your typical example would be why a young Aboriginal student has a timeout from class pass, and if things get a bit stressful for her, she has a 10-minute, can go for a wander and come back, and not everybody has that. So it's that, you're aware of what I'm saying. So that's an education thing that they need to understand why that's happening. And it's not necessarily about fairness. Well, it is about fairness, but in a different way to what they're used to. But probably the two zones that would come up most often in would be a treatment for a behavioural issue in the class. So they need to see that, if I'm getting in trouble for throwing my piece of paper around in the room, then every student will get in trouble in the same way with the same consequences. That's that kind of visible fairness. The other angle, the other of the two, I would say, is something I push around assessment, which may be more interesting for you, I guess, is the sense of doing your assignments and handing them in on time. My spiel is usually around, why are we being quite strict on this, and that it's about fairness, so that the students who have been up till, who've been working on it all week and we're up to 10 p.m. or 2 a.m. last night getting it done, for today, if you hand it in 3 days from now and, or next week, or don't hand it in, then that's not fair to those students. So there's that angle of what the students provides or does as well. The authenticity, the relevance, all of that, but maybe it's a kind of an umbrella term for just some sense that students, maybe I was going to say ownership, but that has other connotations, but it's close. But just some sense that they feel this is a topic that I have something to say about, and says something to me. That kind of sense that it's mine, rather than I guess why ownership works is that sense you have with some topics in English or the Hisy as well, that it's there because it's in the syllabus. It's there because the curriculum says you should learn it. It's there because society says it's important, whatever. But the student doesn't feel that it's talking to me in some sense about my life. And without going, I'd also be worried about going too far in that direction. I think I've done that before as a teacher in previous years and seen others, where you make everything about connection. Nothing is good unless we find a way to connect it to the student's own life and world. And I think that can get really small-minded, and I think you miss something. So it's really not about subject matter. I actually think just about anything we do in English or history can be made to connect with students. So it's more an approach. It's an awareness of the teacher when planning the lessons, and the way I'm going to set this up is not, I'm going to put all the notes up on the board and say answer these questions. I'm going to actually spend time, and the way. So, for example, the way our units of work are structured here. The first phase of every unit of work is some kind of orientation and engagement phase. It doesn't say connection, but I think that's what it's about. It's some attempt to, whether you're doing Shakespeare or whatever that on the surface seems removed from the students, to build in some kind of sense that this matters to me, that this might impact on my life, that I might actually draw something out of this that I can use. And I don't think I, as a teacher, or we as teachers are always successful with that, but it's more of an aspiration, maybe. Classes that you don't know very well yet, so the relationships aren't there, or classes that are difficult and challenging for some reason, sort of behaviourally, anyway. Yeah. And so if you're thinking about behavioural engagement that might come through routines such as, lining up first before you come in, or, how and where people stand and sit in the classroom, those sort of things, I think for some classes are really important, and probably do need to happen first, so that there's a safe environment to build those other kinds of engagement into.